Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial video. In today's video we're going to go over some really simple, a really simple pose that you can apply to your own works. We've basically gone over just the sort of fundamental how to piece a character together with different body types, but I've never done anything that actually shows you how to pose them, so this will be helpful if you're trying to work on a piece or you just want something to practice or want a reference, whatever it may be. I'm going to try to keep these relatively short though, just because I want to keep it pretty simple and straightforward and not feel like it's a slogfest to get through. So just moving along, I'm going to work on the left side of my page here just because I'm going to fit a couple different poses in here over time. But for right now, I'm going to start with a circle. This will be our little placeholder for the head. And immediately, before I do anything, I'm going to drop in our center line. And then we can put in just a super simple little head here. Like so. Gonna make that cheek a little bit more pudgy looking though. So I want our character's face to look soft. I'm going to bring the circle back a little bit, just like this, because the skull actually, it's not a perfect circle. If you look at it from the side, it kind of sticks out in the back a little bit more. So we'll do that. It's going to be very slight though, because our character isn't, we're not seeing like a side profile of our character, they're looking off to the side a little bit. From there, we can put in our center line, then our shoulder line, which I'm going to angle a little bit with the direction of our jawline, kind of like that. Then we want to put in our rib cage placeholder, basically the same size as the head. Then we can put in some little shoulder circles here. Our pits, and a little mark for where the chest is going to lay. From there, we'll put in another line for our hips to help us map those out. And we'll make the hips about in line with the shoulders here, so I'll just mark this off, mark off a little spot for the bottom of the hips. I'm just gonna connect those like so, and then make a little hip shape here. Trying to keep it looking somewhat even, but in the construction line portion we don't have to get things perfect right now. In fact, I will bring these hips down a little bit. But really, I'm just following the same rules that we've already gone over in our previous videos, so all of that is going to be the same. It's just now we're going to look at the body in different angles and poses and things like that, and just kind of see how things bend and turn. So from there, I'm going to shrink my head down a little bit. It's kind of too big. So I'll shrink that down. And then I'll follow this sort of line, give her like a hourglass figure here. So I'm basically just connecting the ribs to the hips with like this shape. Then I'll follow off that rib line for our tummy line. And add in our belly button. Alright, so from there we can put in our legs, which I'm going to do these as like full body poses so you can see everything that's going on. And this first one is going to be very, very simple, so should be pretty straightforward. We'll put in some placeholders just to see the angle of our legs. from there, at about the halfway point, we'll put in our little knee circles, and then from there, at about an equal distance, we'll put in our little ankles. So from there, we'll put in our thighs, which we want the thighs to be at their thickest, pretty much right below the hip line. For our female characters, that's where the most fat is stored on the leg, is kind of in this area. So we'll do the same here, and I'm just kind of swooping this inside line for the leg with like that shape. But then out here, I'm basically just following that hip and then tucking it back in, like so. Then we'll make our knee with the inside line here, so it just kind of follows along. And again, in our construction line portion, doesn't have to be perfect, because we'll balance as we go. So I'll do that. And from there, I'm just going to use kind of a slightly concave line to connect us down to our feet. And then on this outer side here is where I'll actually have the calf muscle, like so. And then we're going to have simple feet here, since this is just a pose tutorial, not a foot tutorial. So these will just be placeholders pretty much. Like so. From there, we'll have her arms kind of behind her back. I want her to look like she's kind of timid right now. Seems to be a common pose that you'll see in anime and manga. So her arms behind her, probably holding her hands behind her back nervously. So we'll do that. From there, I'm going to put in our necklines. And you can mess with the thickness of the neck till it looks right to you. And then we'll just connect it. I can already see that I'm a little bit off center. So I'll just fix that. Alright, and then from there, we won't give her a crazy chest here. We'll just put in some little breasts here, like this. You're just kind of following this pit line right here, and you're just going to swoop it kind of like that. So it kind of looks like a teardrop almost. Do that, and then from the top of the shoulders here, I'm going to follow that into the collar, like so. There. So now I'll make this a little bit bigger just so it fills my page, but that's really the only reason why I'm doing that. Alright, so from there, the really last thing is we'll have little marks here for the glutes. You just barely see them from behind the legs. Make sure our tummy line is visible. Basically just has a little bump into a tuck, and it bumps back out again. So it's just kind of the belly fat over the abs. From there, I'm not doing, a crazy face. Just gonna make her add at least a slight expression there, along with some ears. For me, for ears, I just like to kind of give a little shape like that. Then you have this pointy bit and the lobe right there, and then you just follow it and then add some marks there for the little sort of cartilage part in the ear right there. So, but yours are come in a lot of different shapes, so you can kind of mess with it and just get a shape that you like. And there we go. So now what I will do is I will just go ahead and do the line art portion. So basically just going to go over our shapes again, and I'm not worried about the quality of my line art for this because this is just kind of a pose tutorial, you know, this isn't a fan art or anything like that. So I will make my eraser smaller though, just so that way I can get some of these right. So usually you can use multiple layers so you can really get super accurate, nice lines with really great line weight and everything. But for this, I'm just going to move along quick so I don't take up too much more of your guys' time. But now we'll do our neck, like so. These are the little sort of tendon marks in the neck, so we'll just drop those in. From there, again, following the pit, kind of swoop it into the chest. Same with over here. I think I'll start from in here. Some more marks there. We'll do the hip next, because this hip portion here isn't gonna really be movable or anything. So it's one of those hard lines that we kind of want to just work the rest of our lines around the hips rather than change our hip line to meet our other lines. From there, we'll connect these, and I'll add in our little tummy marks here. And you don't have to add these in for your pieces if you don't want to, but just for the sake of teaching, I think it's good to know they're there. And I do want to make sure here that my hips are somewhat even because they're getting away from me. So just bring this down a little bit, like so. And tuck that. And then our little belly button line there. Like so. From there we can do the arms next, so I'll just bring up to the elbow, into the shoulder, and so the elbow portion here, basically where our ribs are, so we have, you know, the bottom of our ribs here, and then in the front portion here, this is where the ribs sort of have that opening. So this is like the bottom of the ribs right here in the front, and that's about where the bend in the elbow is going to be. So like this elbow right here is way too low. But again, it's the construction line portion, so little things like that we just fix for the actual finished product. So that, I did not mean to leave my rib line in here, so I'll just get rid of it like this. Just fix these lines. Like that. And from there, I'll put in her traps. Just kind of small. You don't want them to be too big on our non-muscular characters. I will bring this shoulder out a little bit though, just so it's a little bit more even with the other one. And I'll definitely, before I end the video, I'll take some time just on my own without walking you through it to just make sure that everything's symmetrical and looks nice. It's a little bit harder to do that on the fly while I'm also talking through things, so please just bear with me here. But we'll put in the bottom portion of our hips there, and then we'll take this inside portion of the leg, and remember we're going to bring it in, then back out, and then kind of swoop it. So do that. And then I like to, when they're looking straight on, I like to just kind of follow that line straight into the knees. So do that over here too. Then we can add our outer hip line, keeping it at the thickest, pretty much right at the top, and then kind of swooping it in. And we'll have the slightest concave line here. So it's pretty much straight, but it just has the tiniest of bends in it. Like so. Then we'll follow this little behind the knee, this little tendon area, and we'll swoop our calves in there. Like so. And then again, I'm just doing super simple little feet placeholders basically. So we'll do this, and then the ankle on the inside is going to be lower than on the outside. So put this here. Or is that right? No, it's not. I don't think it is. Sorry, I'm checking my own ankles right now because that doesn't feel right, but apparently it does. Okay, anyways. Do that right there. Add our little ankle lines. Like so. And again, she's just supposed to look timid, so I'll just add a little blush lines there. So I guess really, one thing I will change real quick is just make sure this arm comes out just a little bit more. Like so. And we can add some little marks here where the bend of the forearm meeting the bicep would occur. Like that. So, oh yeah, and then we want to add our little glute lines here. Okay, so again, super simple pose, nothing crazy here. I just want to keep these pretty simple so that way you can follow along and use them as references, or if you need help with posing your characters. These are meant to be really beginner friendly tutorials, so that's why I'm going to keep it pretty simple for this first couple of just pose tutorials, and then as time goes on we can do more and more tricky poses. So just mess with the balance of it and make sure that everything's about as symmetrical as you can make it, where it needs to be, and yeah, you can just go from there. So either way, that's our first pose done, and I'll just kind of walk through some other simple ones in later videos. So for right now, hopefully you found this one helpful and this is a pose that's interesting to you. And so I